After 10 days on the road, zigzagging back and forth across the Colorado landscape, and finding our way north to Rocky Mountain National Park, it was time to turn our wheels south and begin the long trek back to Texas. After a much-needed overnight rest in Pike National Forest near Colorado Springs, we ate a quick breakfast and were on our way again. Storm clouds had been looming in the skies overhead for most of the morning, and there was a very pleasant chill in the air. We decided to take a tour of a gold mine just outside of Cripple Creek, and followed that with lunch in town, as the skies just seemed to get darker and darker. As we left the restaurant, the rain had just begun to fall, but it quickly turned to hail as we made our way back down the block to where we had parked the 4Runner. A hurried map check, and we were headed south and away from the approaching storm. Our plan was to travel south by way of Phantom Canyon Road, picking it up in the little town of Victor south of Cripple Creek. We had little time to spare because the storm was staying right on our heels as we traveled. Phantom Canyon Road is a 30-mile stretch of unpaved, maintained road that was once a narrow-gauge railroad connecting the gold mines between Cripple Creek, Canyon City, and Florence. The railroad was closed in 1912, and the road remains in operation today as a county road. It ascends an elevation between 5,500 and 9,500 feet above sea level. It is a very beautiful and scenic drive that includes 2 meticulously chiseled tunnels through the rugged mountain terrain, which was dug out by the same miners who would be mining the gold that would one day travel along this very route and out of the area. There are also 3 beautifully maintained wooden bridges along the route. Phantom Canyon Road is a maintained dirt road that is easily traveled by a 2-wheel drive vehicle in ideal weather conditions. However, I would not attempt this road in a 2-wheel drive during or following a heavy rain or in winter road conditions, as the road has multiple switchbacks and some very narrow sections of road that have very deep and sharp drop-off. Not to mention that in many places there is very little room for error. While researching Phantom Canyon Road online, I was only able to find one place along the route to camp. However, as we traveled through, we took notice that there were actually many established campsites just off the beaten path where you could make camp alongside the winding creek, many of them with fire rings built long ago. Our original intention was to spend a considerable amount of time obtaining video and still photos while on this section of our trip. However, with the tight, winding switchbacks, narrow roadway, meeting cars traveling in the opposite direction, and just the general slowness of our travel, we were barely able to stay ahead of the approaching storm. Anytime we would stop, we would only have a few precious minutes before the rain would catch up with us, and soon after, so would the hail that found us in Cripple Creek and Victor. After finding the highway, we made our way south and finally decided to spend our last night on the road at the KOA campground in Raton, New Mexico. The KOA campground in Raton is a KOA journey and was a nice one-night stopover. While it could not come close to the KOA Holiday in Estes Park or even the KOA journey we stayed in Gunnison, the park itself was clean and maintained. The showers were not as clean as I would have liked, and there was a lot of road noise, but we were only there for one night, so we made do. The next morning would mark our final day on the road. We made a short stop at Capulin Volcano, located east of Raton, and one final stop at a family-owned museum in Folsom, New Mexico. Folsom is very near the favorite hideout for the notorious Blackjack Ketchum gang, as well as a favorite point where the Ketchum gang would board and rob the train. After being shot in the arm and later captured, Blackjack was returned to the hotel in Folsom, where he was bandaged and held for a few days while waiting to be moved to Trinidad to have his arm amputated. The hotel still stands today, and we were allowed to visit the room where Blackjack was held. It had been a wonderful 2-week vacation, and we had traveled more than 2,700 miles, sleeping in a rooftop tent and for the most part in free campsites within the national forests. As beautiful as Colorado proved to be, I can't help but reflect on the absolute best part of our travels, our family time. There is something to be said about clear, cold, open mountain skies, stars above our heads, warm campfires, and even warmer cuddles, without the distraction of TV, email, Facebook, and everything else that normally consumes our days. But as with all things, everything must have an end. And I have to admit, it did feel very nice to be able to get back home. I've heard it said that if you live your life for the destination, you just might miss out on the journey. My goal is to not miss that journey. If you live your life like there is no tomorrow, then you will have no regrets if tomorrow never comes. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us in our journey. I hope you've enjoyed it, and better yet, I hope we've inspired you to take notice of your own journey through life. Because after all, we only get one.